Hello, hello. Don't know if anybody is here. I am the unlikely 4 minutes late one. Trying to get everything set up, of course. Excited. So let me go to Turner's Church here and put my We Are Live. I've been waiting for this. So, I'm sure people forgot, but that's okay. I am here doing my We Are Now Live. Join us. All right. Share. So the Vortex, that is the book. It is now approximately, make sure I'm all in the right place and all it could be. I could be in the wrong place. Nope, 12 p.m. The 7th. Today is the 7th and 12 p.m. Western time and 3 p.m. Eastern time, or 3:06 Eastern time. So I'm in the right place. A little uncharacteristically late. I do like to be on time, but I have been late a couple of times showing up here to do my either weekly or my daily or my and this is the second book club. So welcome, folks. Welcome. I have my book, which is on here, The Vortex. I did not have the book, long story that I won't even bother with, and stuff like that. But it's funny, actually, after reading this book, because I was like, well, we can go through the series of books, blah, blah, blah. And then after reading this book, I'm thinking, not so much. One of the things, obviously, the whole premise of how Javon got here, this is my little list of books. Yeah, see that vortex there? That's the vortex. Just see, I have it. Yeah, some other books there too, if you're curious, but it just went where it wanted to go. So I guess I won't be showing you that. It just went to the book because I have the book here. So one of the things, obviously, with Javon getting to this point where he was kind of like, how can I put this in a term that Black people would understand, is that book will make you do that. And the good thing is, let me grab that. I showed this book, Getting into the Vortex, which is kind of almost an accompanying book to this book. It's the meditation. And it actually is where he gave us the well-being meditation. There's actually 4 meditations, or actually the intro is technically a little bit of a meditation as well. But then it's well-being, financial abundance, relationships, and well-being. I think I got them or whatever, but I'll let you know what they are. But yeah, so it's these various meditations, and that's kind of what the vortex is too. So it's a financial abundance, well-being, and relationships. Didn't I just say that? Well-being, financial abundance, physical well-being, and relationships. Oh, okay. So they had just physical well-being is something different because I felt like I was forgetting one. So that's also in terms of getting into the vortex. And the book, The Vortex. So that's kind of what we are dealing with today. I'm just trying to see if anybody else will show up. If not, it'll be a recording that other people can watch later and see if they got, I guess, if somebody read it and wants to know if anybody else read the Vortex book and what they thought. I guess I'll just be giving my opinion. So it's a warm West Coast. I am not all the way West Coast, California. I'm Las Vegas, West Coast. Close enough. And definitely Vegas meaning hot, deserty, all of that kind of stuff. So where's my pen, just to make sure I have that. Not that I really need it for anything. I got a little clipboard if I need that too. So I'm just trying to blah, 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 just a little bit in terms of book club before I get started. Just to see if anybody else will show up. Give them a few more minutes. But as is customary in terms of this thing that we are trying to do here, people say they're gonna sign up, say all that kind of stuff, and then they don't. So you just gotta let grown folks do what grown folks do. So that's all good. But I'm here, and as always, the show will go on. So I'm just posting it. I actually had 2 posts, and I just didn't dare delete it. So that's kind of what ended up happening as well. So because I think I had made some changes or something to the effect. So they've been up for a while, over a month, because we actually did not have a April book club because of this whole book, me waiting for the book and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I have us. Okay. I'm going to start getting distracted. Copy this. Copying the link again and pasting it again and attaching it again. You're now live. Join us and sharing it again. All right. So I am getting started. It has been 10 minutes. I even got started later. No need to police grown folks. This thing has been up for a while, you know. So I'm just going to assume it's going to just be me unless somebody just pops in out of curiosity, which tends to happen. Plus I have, I think I have some members who have actually joined. So you do get some notifications. So that's a good thing, I guess. My voice is just a little bit raspy. So there's my hair as always. Also, you help and look at stuff and things like that. I keep saying I'm going to twist it. That's a whole other thing, but everything will get there, right? Everything happens in its due time. So let's just start with the book, The Vortex. The Vortex, like any book and stuff, people want to know, is it or is it not worth the read, all those types of things. I think it depends, right? Because we're on the law of attraction. We're talking about the law of attraction. This is about the law of attraction and the law of vibration for me. Something we haven't necessarily got into in the same well, we have in a way with Javon, but he is the master teacher, and he introduced this whole law of attraction to us in a particular way that was much more palatable, relatable for Black people, and the law of vibration is kind of where that comes out of. And they talk a ton about the law of vibration when they talk about the law of attraction. And there's a reason for that. It's because the law of you need to actually have the law of vibration going in order to have the law of attraction going. The thing is, as you start to understand, as you start to kind of get more and more into this, even if you start to feel good because you just realize, hey, just feel good. They're just telling you, pretty much consider it 2 feelings. Either you feel bad or you feel good. And so try to go with always feeling good, no matter what the circumstances are. Try to find that way of being able to look at your situation or circumstance so that you feel good. The vortex, as in the way that Javon put it, is the boom boom room, right? Instead of the vortex, he converted it in a way to make it understandable, more relatable, and made it into the boom boom room. If you saw the movie Life, then you know that they were in jail for life. Again, a whole nother injustice, right? Because that's the way it is. Unfortunately, with Black people, we end up having to deal with a whole lot of other things. So even in watching a movie that's supposed to be this funny movie, there's this sadness undertow, which is a really kind of a good metaphor for Black people's lives because of what we have to deal with. So this humorous movie about these 2 humorous guys, but the truth of the matter is they were framed, and then they were put in jail, and they were put in jail for life. The movie is called Life, and that is very not uncommon for Black people Black men in particular, and some Black women who get swept up in the system, and it becomes a part of their life. They are in jail for life. Obviously, the way that they have set up these laws, the white establishment, whiteness, white supremacy, white racism, white people have set these things up. In a sense, they have solidified a lot of their laws in place to continue to keep the established status quo, which is the oppression of Black people. They may oppress other people, but certainly nothing to the degree of Black people. And that's one of the reasons for me that I was drawn to just a lot of this in terms of where the law of attraction and how to help Black people. And I think that it is helpful. We have to start somewhere. So in a sense, how do you end up getting it from the white person, the white people, because they are the ones who've been publishing the books, right? They are the ones who have the resources in place, those types of things. And we kind of have to start where we need to start. And as usual, it's probably originally ours anyway. And then we, in a way, take it back and reclaim it and then be able to do things with it. So that's kind of a little bit of a spiel on life, the vortex, all of these types of things that we're going to be talking about today. So we're only supposed to run, how long are we supposed to run today for this? Let me just go again. I did all of that, and then I set it up from, an hour and a half. Don't know if we'll make an hour and a half, but we'll see. So we'll go either an hour or hour and a half just to make sure. So where do we start? One of the things about the vortex, just dropped my little speaker. So one of the things about the Vortex book, as I said, is that it's a little long-winded. It's not necessarily what I would call, particularly if you're, as I said, thinking about this in the context of Black people, it may need it's a challenge in terms of being relatable. So that's one of the good things that you get, hopefully a bunch of people who read it and give different points of view about it and things like that. That's one of the reasons you have a book club, is because you do that as well. And it's been a long time coming for it, but we are here, and I'm just going to start talking about it. So the first thing that let's see, let me make sure I go to. So I have the book here, and I have it in this form, and I'm also going to talk to this. So I bought this as well, the CD, because I thought that this actually was a really good breakdown of this, what the book should have been. But I guess it wouldn't be a book, right, if it wasn't a little more long-winded than a meditation. But the meditation is more of the simplicity of what they're ultimately trying to say and explain in this book. So one of the things that Jerry does, and he's kind of is Esther and Jerry Hicks, right? This little old white couple. I don't know if you can see them on the back of this book, and they're even older than that now, but because their head's a little cut off on that. But yeah, this little old white couple, and they speak in the kind of the singular and the plural of this group, Abraham, who has been advising them. And Abraham is also, it's kind of technically like three people. So Esther, she's the one who speaks for Abraham, and then Jerry is her husband, and then Abraham is Abraham's kind of universal force, this transcendent force. The source, their source, I should say, not the source, because we all have our individual sources. And they speak through these people, and they from there they get a kind of some words of wisdom that will kind of help you with your life and in dealing with the areas of your life. And the one thing that I had an issue with is that the book is like, you go pages and pages in, and they still don't give you the definition of the vortex. And that's one of the things in terms of even me reading this and stuff like that, where I'm like, okay, how do you really kind of put a lesson plan together? Because as an educator, and I see there's quite a few of us who kind of jumped on this bandwagon with Javon, and kind of coming from those educational, said sociology, psychology, those types of things, myself included. to make this in a way that is helpful to Black people. And you certainly want to give kind of simplistic definitions in terms of what people are saying. Well, why? And that's one of the things that Javon did when he made the Vortex, the boom boom room, as I said, is that this is basically a place inside of you and outside of you and all around you. It should kind of be your permanent place. You be the vortex as well as the vortex be a room that you just put all of these goals, right? Your goals, your plans, your wants, your needs, your intentions, all of those types of things that you want to have happen, that have already happened, that you've already made the deposit for, and that you want to just make the manifestation of them. Manifestation being that they come to pass and that they happen. And they didn't do that either in this book. They went just kind of a long way around to just kind of say a lot of the same thing. Nothing's wrong with it. I think that everybody should read it and and get something out of it, because it'll be a different experience for everybody. But the context in terms of where the whole title of the book is The Vortex, where the law of attraction assembles all cooperative relationships. So it's basically, like I said, where the law of attraction, you go to this place where everything is. So I think in another simplistic way, you might want to say it's kind of where all of the power is in terms of this thing that you're creating, this thing that you're generating in terms of the vortex. So what I decided I wanted to do, and I'm going back here now, let me see if I can bring up, see it, because I have it on my computer. So table of contents. So the vortex, the law of attraction. Yeah, okay. So he started with kind of like the flawed premises, and I'm gonna just go through a few of them, and then I'm gonna just switch to the meditation book, because again, I think that it's kind of simple. This is kind of simplistic. So I'll be taking off my glasses and putting them on a little bit and stuff like that, because I wear glasses. It's funny when you get healthier too. Sometimes you're like, is my sight getting better? And I think it is sometimes. And then you're wearing glasses, and then so you have to kind of, that's the challenge of it as well. So okay, now this thing just wants to bounce around. So you won't see my book obviously, but I'm looking at the book here online. This was my first time trying this. That's why I do prefer to have the book. So I bookmarked some things. So let's try to get to those. Come on, screen. All right, there it is. Okay, my bookmarks. All right. So my first bookmark, I'll do that, was the flawed premise number 1, because as I said, they started with flawed premises. And the flawed premises, I am either physical or non-physical, either dead or alive. Now, obviously, we know that that is not the case, but this is kind of where he went. He started with kind of the premises that basically we go with false understanding of a lot of different things. So a premise, right? A false premise, a flawed premise, a faulty assumption, a baseless correlation, all of those types of things that we oftentimes go with. If you're coming on and you're used to seeing me with my glasses on, they're right here. I just have to, when I do reading, I don't need them. I can actually see without them. And yes, I know I probably look better without them. But yeah, so you're either physical or non-physical, and either dead or alive. So that is the first premise, the flawed premise that you are of what you are believing, basically, because it's not necessarily a fact, right? It's just that is the premise, the moment of your birth. And the moment of your birth, a part of the consciousness that is focused itself into the physical body, and your first relationship begin, the relationship between the physical you and the non-physical you. And this is really interesting in the sense that a lot of times we do get to the point, I think the more that we become this physical person, right, and we embrace who we are and the physical, the person that we are looking at all the time, we do tend to stop attaching to that there is this whole non-physical, actually more of that going on a constant, regular basis all the time. So Hello, person that is here that is viewing. If you happen to want to let me know that you are here, you can, if you're on Turner's Church, you can put something in the chat box. That way I'll know that you're here and I can communicate with you if for some reason you want to communicate with me. Let me see if I can also, not getting all distracted, but I saw a person on here. So let me go to, not getting all distracted, but I saw. All right, so yeah, there's a live chat there. So the live chat is up as well. I guess if somebody puts something there, I'll be able to see it. I think. Don't know for sure, but yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of the flawed premise aspect of it. The flawed premise being that where you're either physical or non-physical, and most of the time the whole point of it is that a lot of times we're just really focused here in the physical. We're not necessarily thinking outside of ourselves, when the truth of the matter is we probably should be thinking more so to the point that we are these non-physical beings, and a lot is kind of going on, first of all, in our heads where nobody else can see it anyway but us, and that a lot of times we're thinking on things, but we're kind of thinking on we're thinking on a lot of the physical aspects or what we don't have, as opposed to the powers in which we do have a lot of things going on. So that was kind of flawed premise number one in terms of what they were starting with the vortex. And remember, the vortex is this room, or as Javon put it in a sense, he did it in the way that he made it the boom boom room. And that is a good way to kind of think of it, in the sense that there is this place that you're making deposits or things that have kind of already manifested. Now we just need to figure out how to bring them into more of a physical aspect, these things into the physical, as opposed to just worrying about the physical of what's not going right in our lives. That type of physical, which is what we tend to do a little bit more of in terms of, instead of thinking of what's going good, accountability, that kind of stuff, instead of a blame and what's going bad. So that was the first premise. So now the second premise, and I have my bookmark again because I'm on I have it on my computer. I do prefer physical books, but long story short, this is just what happened. Okay, so the flawed premise, and this was a good one. My parents, because they were here long before I was, and because they are my parents, know better than I do what is right and wrong for me. That was premise number two. And of course, that's a hell no. That is absolutely not the case. And probably if you are thinking that a lot of times, and a lot of times we are conditioned to think that, and then the older we get, we find out, it's funny that they call that a flawed premise, is that we find out our parents are perfectly imperfect and perfectly flawed. You know, we're also grappling with these adults who are sometimes seem quite incapable, a lot of the time, maybe 50% of the time, with caring for us, because they can barely take care of their damn selves. Now, that is obviously not to attack parents, even though it sounds like that. But I think that it is kind of a confusing situation as you start to grow up in an adult. And sometimes you continue to go through it, even at my age, and start contending with how perfectly imperfect your parents were, how perfectly flawed they were, and what a mess they were. A lot of times your parents were just a hot mess. I think I've said in some other discussions that our parents did the best they could, but then sometimes they just messed up, you know, and that in terms of parenting, sometimes we feel like our parents, as we become parents, or in my case, aunties, and you learn how to do things differently, and you do things better with the children in your life that you encounter, you want to do better because you realize that your parents were making mistakes and that they were just ill-equipped. And because sometimes they're coming from the place that they're coming from, a lot of times they are also working from that place for themselves. They're making the decision sometimes when they just say no, you know, when you be like, well, can I go up the street and around the corner? The answer is no, because they can't see you, you know, and they'll say no, because I can't see you. But the point is they can't see you, and that's too much work for them to have to worry about you being around the corner and them having something else to think about. I know it sounds crazy, but it is kind of the truth in terms of their answer is no for them. you know, but for some reason, whatever the case may be. But the whole point of that, in terms of how you are oftentimes thinking about things, in terms of it being a flawed premise, is that we look to these flawed people to help us when a lot of times they don't even know how to help themselves. And that is the constantness of life. A lot of times once you start going to school and you see teachers that don't have all the answers or any of the answers, especially now with school the way that it is, or you see jobs when you're working with a whole bunch of dumbasses, and I'm just going to speak freely, where you just like, oh my God, you can't even believe sometimes the person that's the boss is the boss, or whatever the case. Or sometimes you see people who are actually quite knowledgeable and they're not necessarily in the positions that they're in, and obviously it may be affecting your work or your ability to be able to go from point A, point B, if you let it, because that's supposed to be the point here, is that we're learning to kind of transcend those things, put things in our vortex, and also ride our green bubbles. That's the emotional sides of it, right? To get your vibration up higher, so that you are not having to necessarily think the way that you thought and deal with the way that you think that you deal with things, and this, particularly with regards to our parents. So I said all of that bash to the parents, basically, to end up saying, let your parents off the hook. Because they did do what they knew to do with the information that they had. Ultimately, we're coming down to experiences and existence, right? How we are experiencing ourselves in this world, how we're existing in this world, and how all of that kind of comes together to make us who we are. And in understanding that, we realize, okay, sometimes some of us get it earlier than others, where you just be like, you are going to be on your own. Let me make it to 18. And then I'd be making some plans to move in a different direction than these crazy adults that I have been charged with. Because one of the things also, in terms of the Vortex book, is that, it ultimately says that you kind of plan this, right? You plan to be here, and you plan this journey, and the way that you planned it in your whole non-physical form is that you wanted the parents that you wanted to have, and go through the things that you wanted to have. I agree with that to a certain extent. I think I've shared before, I think in the first book when we talked about law of attraction, that I think Black people and children have some extenuating circumstances, in that we have some invaders that have come into our energy realm. And them being in our energy realm, they kind of here and, invading and doing some fuckery. So don't curse much, but when I curse, I'll make sure it's purposeful. So that's what I think is also the case. That's one of the reasons I think that we have also long since not acknowledged, in terms of us getting on other people's narratives that we need to reject. We often tend to not acknowledge all of the things that we need to acknowledge, as well as deal with while Black, and doing all these things. The law of attraction while Black, the law of vibration while Black, the vortex while Black, and all of those types of things. Meditating while Black, and making changes and healing from our wounds and our scars while Black. But the whole point of that is, right, that it's never even been acknowledged. We've never had any sort of psychological anything for anything in terms of anything. And that might sound very general, but I think that we have been very much conditioned in ourselves, conditioned and programmed and brainwashed, in terms of moving on from situations when you have never even addressed the situation. And that just does not make sense. So that was flawed premise number 2. So let me see what else they say that I could go from here. Because as I said, this was one of these books, in my opinion, in terms of the Vortex. I think that it's worth reading, but I think that they're very repetitious in general, in terms of what they're getting to, the bottom line, which is what I'll kind of summarize with this. But I think that this book was definitely a lot of wording, in terms of kind of, you could have definitely got to the point, and sometimes not even getting to the point right away, because I felt like that they should have definitely saying, what is the definition, or your immediate definition, or simplistic definition of what is the vortex. And literally they did not get into that. And I was like at 3rd page. Well, on here it might have been a different page, but I was like on page like 22 or 32 or something like that. And I was like, when are they going to give the definition? I'm not, as an educator, you feel like you want to be like, when are you going to get the definition of vortex? And I still was not like getting what I felt was like a clear, or even them just saying the very simplistic definition of vortex is. That did not happen. So there you go with that. All right. So It says much of the imbalance the people feel long after they leave the immediate environment of their childhood home stems from the impossible effort of replacing their own guidance system by seeking approval from their parents. Your feelings of freedom is trampled whenever you try to align with the opinion of someone outside of you, that is your parents, rather than aligning with the vibration that comes forth from within you, that is your inner being. So pretty much kind of what I just said is that you always have this kind of conflict going within yourself, even with your parents. Sometimes, you know, if you are a parent or an auntie in case, you see the differences with children and what they wrestle with and what they struggle with. And some children are going to be easier in some areas than in other areas. And the truth be told is that particularly with regards to you, how they relate to you, they're struggling because they are dealing with their inner being. They're trying to be who they are trying to be. And at the same time, obviously you as the adult and the authority figure in their life, they're also navigating having to listen to this person who they wouldn't trust their life with. And they already know that in their mind. But at the same time, it's being communicated with them that this person is in charge of you. Where first is some adult, and then literally, and I'm almost crazy in a sense, you send these people to, you send these little people to school with people who don't even like them, right? Especially all of these white teachers who's suspending our kids at 6 and 10 times the rate. These white women specifically, and I could go into all of that, but I won't. Or actually, maybe I will. But yeah, it's suspending our kids and stuff like that. And then you're literally putting these people in charge of them for 6 and 8 hours a day, who look down on a sea of black faces and don't like them. So, so all of those kinds of mixed messages, and the crazy of that. For us, again, as I said, when you start to deal with these types of things and realize that you're dealing with these issues while black and dealing with these issues, trying to correct these things and also having to do these things at the same time, you have to do them, right? If you are in a circumstance where you can't necessarily homeschool your child or something like that, you kind of have to send them into the crazy, and then you understand the crazy at the same time. So all of those types of things, again, as I said, there's this undertow with black people that you kind of trying to navigate these things. And I feel for us, I'm one of us, right? So, but at least the first part was where you start is in your consciousness, and then you begin to kind of take control and cut away those layers that you need to cut away and take away a lot of those things that are harmful to us. So that was the second premise. I don't know if I'll go through every single premise, but certainly some of the early ones that I bookmarked. So, yeah, so this was one of those parts in the book. I'm going to wherever I was bookmarked. So on my page, it was page 32, and it got to the purpose of this book at page 32. So here's one of my critiques. Is that something in my hand? So here's one of my critiques of the book. Is I'm on page 32 and you go on the purpose of this book. What? You better have gotten to this a lot sooner than 32 pages in, but of course that's what happened. So it says the purpose of this book is to help you remember who you really are, to help you remember the purpose of your physical experience, to restore your feelings of self-appreciation for what you are accomplishing here in your physical body, to help you remember that you are first and foremost a vibrational being. And that's actually a really important point, because that's kind of what we're talking about now, that you kind of really do have to get to the point where you realize much more kind of the vibrational or spiritual or the non-physical side of yourself in order to empower and to power up this physical experience that you're dealing with. And to help you remember that there is a non-physical aspect of you that exists now also. I just said that, but there you go. To help you be aware of the relationship between the two vibrational aspects of you, to help point your awareness consistently towards the swirling vortex of creation, which contains all that you desire and all that you have become. So that is the purpose of this book. In short, this book is written to help you become, you get into the vortex. So I guess all of these things obviously are the path to being in the boom boom room or getting into the vortex. I just call it boom boom room because that's the simplistic way that Javon put it together, and I kind of agree with that. So, yeah. So that's kind of the aspects of this book, and you have to kind of look at it from as an author talking about the book, because I want to talk about the book, because I'm sure there are going to be people who read the book. They had to put together a book. So I just finished saying book in a couple of times. So there I go, promoting the book, right? Because this is a book club and I'm supposed to be reading this book. But you could see how obviously they could have shortened this in a whole lot of different ways. And I just keep laughing about that because I'm just a little nasally this morning. So yeah, I'm drinking a little bit more water because I'm trying to not, you make that snort. You clear your throat because you want to make that snort, but one of them is going to come up if I cannot get this little thing going in my throat together. Okay, so that is what where they started with. So let me just, I always try to read a little bit of what they said after whatever that was that I read. So they said, everyone who turns up in your life, from the people you call friends or lovers to the people you call enemies or strangers, comes in response to your vibrational asking. So that's pretty much the law of attraction, that you have attracted them into your life in some way, shape, or form. Do I totally believe that? No, I just finished saying hell to the no. I don't think that's the case for babies and Black people. Now, we're not obviously as innocent as babies and things like that, but I think that we have very, very unique circumstances as Black people, having experiences on this planet in terms of anti-Blackness, global anti-Blackness, and that things are black and white. We are Black people. And then on the rest of that spectrum, Black, white, and then along that other spectrum, all the others non-Black people of color, for the most part, in the middle, Asians, Hispanic, so all that stuff. But it is black and white. I know other people saying it's not. Stop saying that stuff. Stop saying that racial construct garbage. It's black and white. Every time they try to diminish something, it puts us out of trying to put us further and further away from them acknowledging all the stuff that has been done to Black people and why we continue to have all of the problems that we continue to have. And we help now because it's easy to do that now because it's been a lot of conditioning, brainwashing, and programming. So just stop saying it. You'll be seeing more on my channel for that, but I've been saying it for the longest. But stop saying that racial construct bullshit. Stop getting on their bandwagons. Reject their narratives, reject their systems, reject their language. It's all brainwashing, programming, and conditioning. And there's a reason that they have you, anything that they have you doing in terms of you diminishing any aspect of what they have done to Black people. And you see kind of the continued impacts to the point where now we can see a little 15-year-old boy get shot in the head. Somebody finally gets arrested, and we already know that we all are having that gut-wrenching feeling that is this, okay, the rest, a murder already is back out on the street, all that kind of stuff. And we already know that the undertow for us is that, is there going to be any justice? Is there going to be any conviction? All those kinds of things. We've seen this before. We don't have any solutions. We don't know what to do. All the stuff keep happening. What are the answers? Black people have no answers. We don't know what to do. All of those kinds of things, because they solidified things in law, especially, that hinder us for while Black. So I won't go on a tangent about that now, but it actually does tie in to, not necessarily just thinking law of attraction is just us being attracted, but us also understanding that there needs to be some vibrational powering up for us to kind of protect us and force feel ourselves, but also a better understanding that unfortunately we do have those of us, no matter what, that are going to become victims just for the color of our skin on peripheries. And then some of us who are a little bit further back may be protected for one reason or another. Some of us got and some of us don't. And that's just depressing to say it like that. But just getting a better explanation of how all of it kind of ties in together. And at the same time, still having to live this life and achieve and be better than them, which we are, and also unify and all of those types of things that we have to take into consideration. So don't be depressed, believe it or not, even though as I said all of that, because the good news, obviously, that we continue to know is that we continue to thrive, survive, and we don't die, we multiply kind of situation. And there's a reason for that tremendous amount of power that has always been in place, in spite of what somebody has intentionally and constantly continues to try to do to us. So All right. Don't know if that was all that spiel together. So that's the going back to the book, but it all ties in law of attraction. So there's a law of attraction in terms of getting physical things. And I think it's probably gonna be some point in this book, but maybe I'll just go ahead and talk about it now since it's just coming to mind. Money. Obviously, as I said, it's not just necessarily about money. We might have a dollar amount that we want to have and all those things, but money brings you three most important things that you might want to think about instead of necessarily always saying money, because you do want to talk about money. And the reason that people got into The Secret and the law of attraction is because money. We always need money, or at least what money will bring us, or at least the comfort to a certain degree that money will bring us, that we don't have to worry about that aspect of things. And that's probably actually, so technically poor, because if you count comfort, but money brings you options, money brings you opportunities, and money brings you influence. Those are the three. And I might just start adding comfort, because then you don't have to worry about things. So I need to write that comfort down, because I don't have comfort. I always remember options, opportunities, and influence. But comfort is the other thing, not having to worry about money. One of the reasons when law of attraction came out, and I remember this with Oprah is the one who kind of brought this whole start in a way. It was there because Esther and Jerry were around. They actually got their stuff robbed. Now that if you understand the story further, they got their stuff robbed from Rhonda Byrd for the whole secret stuff. If you really look at her stuff, she kind of stole it from them. They don't look at it that way. They say it in a more of a positive way, and that's white people doing white people, right? Everybody is all good because they are all making money off of it in that sense. But when you really do get down to it, and plus I guess they following the law of attraction and just keeping it positive. But when you get down to it, and if you see the interview with Oprah and Esther Hicks, they actually kind of talk about that, because Oprah kind of found out after she had Rhonda Byrne on and stuff too, that a lot of what happened was that they stole it from Esther and Jerry and the whole Abraham situation. So it wasn't necessarily a whole drama thing, even though I'm saying it to kind of tell you a little bit of the backstory from behind it in terms of the book, but it was just kind of how it came about in terms of the law of attraction getting brought to the masses. And while we are even here today talking about this vortex, is that this was all part of the whole Esther Hicks and Esther and Jerry Hicks and Abraham, but then the whole Secret and Oprah and all of those types of things, they kind of brought it to the mainstream. And again, as I said, one of the things that attracted almost everybody to it when it started was money. People had money issues. People still have money issues, whether you're dealing with debt, whether you're needing money. You can't never have enough money. The greedy, rich, ultra rich 1%, as you can see if you're looking at TV, which you shouldn't be, is that they are want more, doing everything they can to make sure they have more money. So for whatever reason, people have, most people below that don't really know that they don't need all of that money and stuff like that. But in some people's minds, whatever lifestyle they have, they need more than enough to sustain them. But there is such a thing as living at and below your means and still being quite comfortable. And I think that most people would be fine with just making sure that they're able to take care of their kids, take care of their families, all those types of things. But they were drawn to the vortex, drawn to money, even all of the things that we have in our vortex, is being able to afford ourselves comfort. Now, don't make me forget the other ones: comfort, opportunities, options, and influence. So those are the things that money has tended to bring. And that's one of the reasons that we're doing all of this, is so that we don't have to worry about those things. So that's not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, it can be your motivational factor. That's one of the reasons it took me a minute to kind of embrace Javon when he was saying revenge is his highest bubble. But as I said, I understood it when I got to the point that it does. It drives you, it drives your actions, it motivates you, it makes you determined, it makes you take actions, it makes you respond in a way that is going to be for you and in your greatest good. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up, because money is just the biggest factor, and let's, make it put it at the forefront, because it is for the most part for everybody. So that's the thing as well in terms of your vortex room. You might have $1 billion, as I have said before. If you've listened to any of these other recordings I have on here, instead of just saying you want $1 billion, say I want 1 billion options, I want 1 billion comforts, I want 1 billion opportunities, I want 1 billion means of influence, because ultimately you're trying, the $1 billion is whatever it is that you want to do with that. It's not necessarily the paper money, right? You want to give that away as soon as possible, because it is whatever you want to get back from that. So, okay. So going back to the book, if it would stop doing this thing, that's the one thing. I'll change the page. I'm here on this thing, so it's just a little, all right. So now false premise number 3, if I push hard enough against unwanted things, they will go away. True or false, almost want to say. Obviously, well, they called it flawed premise. So obviously that is false. We already know kind of what you think about, right? You bring about. What you think about, you bring about. That was actually one of the guys said that in The Secret. If you watch The Secret, and you should at some point, he says, what you think about, you bring about. And it's just one of those things. Obviously, if you continue to think on a thing and think on a thing and think on a thing, you're going to continue to think on a thing. So that's one of the things about it as well. So that one of the things that we learned, obviously, is to have green bubbles. And I liked what Chris said the other day, where she was just saying she doesn't even write in her Debbie Downer land anymore. And I'm kind of at that point too, where you just really want to, as soon as possible, just kind of find your green bubbles. If you know the bubbles and the bears, then you know that your green bubbles are basically just getting in that good place, getting in that place of accountability as opposed to blame. The low place is blame. The high place is accountability. The low place is hell. The high place is heaven. The low place is low, the high place is high. So just in terms of even just realizing and recognizing when you're in that low place, jump into your high place, jumping on your green bubbles or whatever, in terms of feeling better. You know, you are feeling bad, whatever that low, thinking on that unwanted thing. Unwanted is in the low place, and what you want is in the high place, and just being much more specific about those types of things. So you live in a universe, I'm just reading what they're saying. You live in a universe that is based on the law of attraction. That means that is an inclusive-based universe, not an exclusion-based universe. In other words, in an inclusion-based, attraction-based universe, the simple is no such thing as no. When you, there simply is no such thing as no. When you look at something wanted and you say yes to it, you are including it in your vortex or in your vibration. And then it becomes a part of your vibrational offering, which means it is a part of your point of attraction, which means it begins to come to you. But when you shout no at something, you are including it in your vibration also. So it then becomes a part of your vibrational offering, which means it is a part of your point of attraction, which means it begins to come to you. So that was kind of a little bit of a blah, blah, blah. I didn't read it perfectly either, but sometimes when it's just all over the place as well, you're just like, how simply you could have done that. But anyway, basically, whatever you say no to, you get a vibration for. Whatever you say yes to, you get a vibration for. So in other words, you might be thinking, okay, I don't want to have a bad day. You also are saying you want to have a bad day in that sense. You have to get to the place, right, where you're putting more good on not having a bad day. In terms of, she talked about that before in Law of Attraction book, whereas there's usually kind of a twofold to a lot of whatever it is that you are saying. So the whole, what is the subject and what is the outcome of that kind of subject? You're talking about your day. So you want your day to go a particular way, and you need to be specific on how you want your day to be, as opposed to just saying, you know, maybe because you have somebody at your office that you know every time you go there, they're just going to frustrate you or whatever the case may be. So before you even get to that point, you need to establish more things that are going to go good today. You'd be like, okay, you know, I have this meeting and I'm prepared. Those types of things that you want to focus on. Lunches, I'm meeting so-and-so for lunch, and that's a good thing. So that's two things. You know, I'm prepared for my meeting. Lunch is at 12 and I'm meeting so-and-so for lunch and stuff like that. Oh, yes. And at 2 o'clock, you know, we have this other meeting, and we're going to find out what we need to move forward with whatever the project is. Those types of, so those are three things that you got specific on, as opposed to just worrying about the bad day you could have, sometimes just based on that one person. I think I remember somebody in the class talking about somebody who was always, I think it was one of the guys, I can't remember his name, I don't want to get it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the R's, so Rodney or Ricky. And they were just saying that they had somebody who they didn't like, or who was always giving them grief at the job. And that just, you know, once he started doing the bubbles and the bears, he just was smiling and was like, yo, man, I'm not even going to worry about you. And he smiled the whole time that he was talking to the guy, and he was just smiling. He was just smiling, and he just said that particular day, even though he had a good day, he was just kind of like, I think that was the job he ended up leaving. I'm just paraphrasing the whole story, so I could be totally getting it wrong, but he just pretty much said that he just was like, yeah, I'm leaving this job, and smiling about the interaction he was having with this person that he was having problems with, and he ended up getting a whole new job. So, it's those types of things that will just automatically power you up and have you create the power that you need to create in terms of being able to do what you need to do, and to make that deposit, because he had those good feelings, right? Floating on his green bubbles, depositing, and while floating on his green bubbles, saying, I'm getting a new job anyway. So, and it happened almost instantaneous. And he gave a little testimony, and he put it up on Facebook. That was a couple of months ago, but I'm sure it's still there. So that's just to tell you how quickly you can turn things around. So that is, and I'm looking at the time, look how fast the time flew. Some of the things that with the book, I'm not going to go through the whole book, but because I wanted to talk about this, which is a simplistic version of the Vortex book. And now my computer, come on. All right. Let me see if I can't go back to my bookshelf. Yeah, okay. So that's the bookshelf of all of these books. All the books are expired, and no, I don't really recommend any of those other books on there if you can see the books. Maybe one or two. Is the 4-hour work week on it? Oh, it is on it. Yeah, I do recommend 4-hour work week. Yeah, so yeah, and $100 startup. So I shouldn't say I don't recommend those books. But anyway, just in case people see it. But this is about the Vortex book, which was there. And then now I'm going to briefly talk about this book, which is I bought up a couple of maybe actually around the same time when we were starting this Vortex book. But this is the meditation. So this is one of the accompanying books. And basically, this could have been the book. And Javon gave us the well-being meditation, but there's 4 meditations. I already have them on my phone, a whole list. I call it the Vortex. So there you go. That's interesting. Let me see if I can't pull it up. I am feeling so nasally today, but that is okay. Okay, yeah, so that's it right there. That's the whole list of them. So yeah, the Vortex introduction is really good, because this is what she should have done with this book is she should have just gave this really simple introduction to it. But I want to read just some of it. So she says, when you are in a state of allowing, which means you have quieted your mind and focused your mind in such a way that there is an absence or a decreasing of resistant thought, your vibration naturally rises. Now, what that means is you are coming closer and closer to vibrational alignment with who you really are, to the frequency of your source, to the frequency of your inner being. And under those vibrational alignment conditions, you must thrive. So that's really kind of ultimately what is this whole aspect of being in the vortex, that you are getting to a place where you are kind of quieting your mind almost all on a constant basis. In a sense, you kind of have to be conscious of being unconscious in a way. So you are always conscious, but you also are kind of kicking all of the crap out of your mind, just kicking stuff out your house, the same way you would do when you get tired of some freeloader living there and stuff like that. Clean up your house and just kind of keep your mind in a place where you are always thinking good thoughts. And it is very difficult and it's very challenging, but you just try to come back to that place. And it is sometimes those times when you need to just go for a walk, see if you can't detach yourself, get up out the bed every single day and do something, step outside your door. That's sometimes a big challenge for people now. And it has been going on for a long time, where people have been dealing with depression or some form of it for a long time, where, you know, they are challenged even to get up out the bed. And we have to literally give ourselves a cookie or a pat on the back or something, just saying that we kicked our feet off the side of the bed and put our feet on the ground. And some days that might be enough for some people, if you can just do that. But you really do want to at least get to the point where you are getting outside of your house, and walking to the drive or to the end of the driveway, and then hopefully getting a little further, and the next day and the next day and the next day. We understand, and the reason I say that is that sometimes people are dealing with such deep depression that that it is that big of a challenge for them to be able to do those kind of things. So let me see some of the other ones that she kind of said, because I felt like that, as I said, the meditations, and this is again just the meditation. Javon gave us the well-being the overall well-being meditation, but then you should listen to the other ones, and you can get them free off of YouTube, and they will show you how to download them, because I have all of them downloaded on my phone now. I don't want to accidentally press the wrong button, because that happens sometimes. So it's if you download and with minus Bubbles and the Bears, because I have the song on here as well. But let me see if you can see my screen. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you include the introduction, it'll be 5 downloads. And the link that now I don't remember what it is, but it's on there in terms of the link that he gave us for well-being. Or just look up well-being on YouTube for the Vortex, and you'll get the meditations. And then somebody just thankfully just put all 5 of them up there. And where do they come from, or where did they get them from? They got them from this CD that's supposed to be in the book. That, of course, because I got this from the library, somebody already stole the CD and never put it back. And as long as they don't blame me for it, I didn't care, and I was still able to get this all of the meditations from this. But if you've been following us when we did the 21 days total man, total woman with Javon, then you already kind of know the well-being, and hopefully you'll be able to find the other ones there. But they're all worth listening to, and they actually give you a better definition. She's doing it in a meditation form, but if you want to read this book, you can listen. It's all pretty much, the book is all of what she's saying as Abraham, but also it kind of gives you a better understanding of actually what the vortex is in terms of every aspect of your life. And remember, I also said, and that's pretty much also one of the reasons I ended up liking the book. I ended up going to this book as opposed to the other book. I would recommend it, but it's just kind of a long read, and this is just kind of a short read. So that's my overall general consensus thought behind what I think of the Vortex book. Read it maybe once, but it's not something that you necessarily, and you should probably get it from the library, and that's not necessarily spend your money on it, because I don't think it's a keeper. If you want something a little simpler, you can get this, and this is free at the library, or you can, if you want your own copy. I usually am the type that likes my own copy, but you know, I've read it, and also now that I have it and have been using the meditations, I kind of got the gist of it. But I'm gonna keep it a little while longer, renew it one more time from the library, so I can make a study guide from it to share with you all. So I actually will have something more on it, because I think you still need to continue to talk about law of attraction, law of vibration, and this book does a little bit better in terms of the meditation of explaining it to people if they're still having struggles with understanding it. I don't know if you necessarily, or at least I don't know if I felt like it gave a good overview in terms of the Vortex book of understanding Vortex. I thought Law of Attraction was a better book. That was our first read than this Vortex book as well. So that's kind of me giving my reviews of the book. And also still recommending this book. Again, if you can see it, Getting into the Vortex Guided Meditation CD and User Guide. And it's just kind of the meditations and of them. And they have the little if you heard the well-being one, then you kind of already know. Let me start it, but
Force feels for you never-endingly. We'll wrap you in a warm blanket of worthiness.
Yeah, and it has that little children's music that you play on a baby's crib. That little, what do they call those? I forgot what even they call those musics and things like that. But that little music that they have, which it is true, is very common and things like that. But also try to plan out every, you know, at all points during the day to just make sure you stop and pause and take a deep breath, you know, and breathe in and breathe out. Sometimes if you can do it a few times, and definitely a minimum of 3 before you get distracted with something else, just try to do those types of things. But just keep going, Black people. We are going to make it. We are better than them. We are doing things in spite of all that is going on. Look out for a whole lot of things that I kind of continue to have coming up. And I'm not giving up on this book club thing, even though one person showed up, whoever this one person is. Thank you. I appreciate that you stayed and hung out with me for this. And And I'm sure people watch it later because I see views up later, so or at least they kind of peek in. So I guess that's a cool thing. And next month's book, of course, somebody else planned it who probably isn't even here today, but I'm like just gonna go because we're not gonna do these series of books because I find out that they're, in terms of the Esther Hicks books, they're a little bit repetitious. Even though I think that the child book might be a good way to go, the Solomon book, at some point to read this. But the next book coming up is Powernomics by Claude Anderson. You will be seeing the links up. I'll have it up for the book club. We're talking obviously about Black economics. A lot of times that's one of the aspects. Everybody has a feeling of where we should go in terms of Black people, and especially those people who don't think marching is doing anything for us, or maybe, have different views, I should say. Obviously marching, everybody has their role to play, and it's going to be playing their position in this journey that we are continuing to take to uplift Black people. So marching may be one aspect of it, and some of us thinking economy is another aspect of it, building our economy and all those types of things. I'm on the mental health side because we definitely need to get our minds right and realize that we need to stop being conditioned, programmed, and brainwashed. So I'm doing that part as well. Other people are going to be doing the other part, other aspects that I can't think of right now that don't come to mind. I'm also going to be dealing with money and business. So those are part of the economic aspects of it too, but also a little bit of a psychological aspect and also the health and wellness aspect as well. So I'm all incorporating and also always bringing it back to what are we doing with our minds as well. So that's one of the reasons I kind of got on to Turner's Church and got into the areas that were my lane, but also the things that I love to do, reading or educating myself, which is one aspect of it, and then mental health, which is my field. But also I see that there's a tremendous need for it, particularly with regard to Black people who are involved in religion and Christianity, because I think we not only slavery and the government has done a tremendous amount to oppress us. I think that religion has done a lot to oppress us. I know some people agree or don't agree with it, but it's I think it's very, very evident now more so than ever. And obviously we all know that the there's 3 branches of government, but the first, there's 5 branches of government if you count white supremacy being a branch of government, and if you count the media being a branch of government. So the 3 branches of government are judicial, executive, and legislative. I know a lot of us didn't even get that in high school, but or in school at some level, but I did. But then the other 2 branches of government are white supremacy and the one I just said, I just forgot it that quick, which you all heard. Sorry, it's me and this throat nasal thing. The media. See, now that I drank, it came back to me. Yeah, so the media. So all of those things that are affecting us. And one of the things with the media is us not needing to watch TV, especially with the ratchet TV and the things that they are trying to, anything negative that we are helping. And I shouldn't just say them because we already know they're doing it, but anything that we are helping with, particularly with regard to the ratchet TV right now, all of those types of things, we need to make sure that we're doing things that power us up and not power us down, because it really is going to have a lot to do with our energy and our vibration and our frequency in terms of power, because we already know that they have literally set laws in place. If you really just wrap your mind around it, that we have psychos with badges and guns, and we have to let these people handcuff us. We have to get in a car with these people. We already know they shoot us and kill us and all those types of things. So just wrapping your mind around those types of things and understanding that one of the aspects of where we start to work on these things is power, energy, frequency. We already know we need to do some things and fight them in laws and all those things that we've been doing for decades now and over a century. But we also need to make sure that we are mentally in this fight in a different kind of way. And ironically, if we could get people out of kind of the scam that Christianity is, the scam, and all of those types of things where they are raising their hands and wanting to send up prayers and touching and agreeing. Maybe if you put that energy in a way that getting away from people you don't have a collective consciousness with and getting with your people and those types of things, and putting those types of energy and that type of vibration on the safety and the elevation and all those types of things with your people, it won't sound so crazy to you. To be like you, so we're just going to think ourselves, kind of, sort of, to start, yeah. Yeah, we need to kind of think ourselves into getting free of all of this oppression that we don't have any answers for, that we keep seeing day by day, and we don't even know what to do because we don't have the power to do these things, and they have got you so mind fucked that it's difficult. So it's a lot, but again, as I said, I say all of that in the same sense to go back. Black people, don't be sad, don't be depressed, be happy, and understand that there is actually ways out of this situation and circumstances. Maybe starts with these types of things, but there are truly things, if you begin to understand your origins on a spiritual foundation, and I mean specifically Black people, and having an origin, an African origin, and all of those things, and all those signs and wonders that our ancestors left, all of those clues, all of those connects the dots that they annihilated, and you almost have to ask yourself why they completely wiped out our history, because maybe there is something there that we are able to do in spite of all they are doing to us, and we just need to find out what it is. Some of us kind of sort of know, and you know, and we need to know how to begin to utilize it and work in our favor to continue to protect our children, to protect our women, our men, our children, and us continue to live. We're doing it anyway, but then what if we knew what we were doing? Okay, so that's all I got. It is now 1:10. Look at me having to look, see all closer, because I ain't gonna put on my glasses, which I am going to put on my glasses. So I had a whole session without my glasses on. All right, so it is 1:10. I actually could go on 20 more minutes, but no, I can't, because I don't know what's up with me in the throat, and I really want to do a big giant cough or something so that I can get whatever's going on with my throat out. But otherwise, I'm feeling great. As you can see, a whole lot of weight. It's so funny, even just from now, I'm looking at myself today, looks very different from, if you look at that first book club where I was sitting up there, a lot more meatier, a lot more meat on my bones, and a face a lot rounder, but it's okay. That's changed. So I guess it'll definitely be on here to see, because I'm not taking it off. And I will see you for the next book club. Look for the Powernomics. The book will be up there. The link will be up there. That's the book we'll be doing next month. Rodney recommended it. I'm sure Rodney is not here today. And I'm hoping that means he's going to be here to be talking about it and giving some input. You know how people are. So prove me wrong, but I'm just like, people recommend stuff and then they don't be here, but that's fine. Go in a different direction. I don't mind talking about economics. Actually, when I started out, I was interested in business and finance, and then I realized that everything is business and finance, or some form of currency anyway. So I just went in a different direction and kind of brought it around to a different way. So that is what we're going to be doing for the next book. And I'm putting up some stuff about mental health coming up, and I'm having the weekly Wednesday chats and recaps. The next one is this coming Wednesday, so look out for all of those types of things, and continue to keep up with this channel. Continue to be a member if you're not already for turnerschurch.com. Javon, the Bubbles and the Bears, here on YouTube now. Him and Chris, the Clarks, as I should call them, and they're doing a really good job. And I'll be talking about some of the things. Actually, Chris was some interesting things this week for the weekly recap that I wanted to comment on. Also, Naked Girls, I kind of started keeping up with them. Like everything, you don't always agree. That's what family does. I don't always agree with everything and of every aspect of what everybody is doing and stuff like that. But this is what this is about. This is about us being able to bring variety, being able to show love. It's not going to be every single person doing the whole thing, or you would be bored and you wouldn't be watching anyway. So everybody's going to be bringing to the table what they are going to bring to the table, and let's just support it all if we can, or as much of it as we can when we can. And I appreciate you all, so thank you for continuing to watch, and I will see you on the next time. This is Veronica. Thanks for tuning in. Bye now.